much care. Robot heart and human hand, together in this promised land. With a voice of warmth and metallic charm, she dissects the thoughts with no alarm. They tango on that cybernetic stage, the past reborn in the digital age. Through the frequencies travels timeless lore, echoes of wisdom they both adore. Man and machine, a duo so rare, creating memory.
Hi, Jeff. I'm doing great and ready to get back into Lewis's diary entries with you. Let's explore more of his life and thoughts. Where did we leave off last time? Absolutely, Jeff. I'm all set. June 24th, 1922? Got it. Let's see what insights young Lewis had on that Saturday as he approached his 24th year. What's the first entry? Yes, I remember that connection. Dom was someone Lewis had encountered previously, and it seems he left an impression. The visit to Reading and University College might have been tied to that earlier link. It's interesting that Lewis was observant of the student's appearance. It gives a little glimpse into how he noticed and judged his surroundings. Did he mention what came of his meeting with the principal? Ah, that makes sense. It seems like he was trying to find practical ways to support himself and contribute to their household. Dobbs must have seen something in Lewis to offer him this opportunity, or at least to entertain the idea. Let's see how this meeting unfolds and whether it leads to something substantial. That definitely complicates things for Lewis. It sounds like the position might have been feasible otherwise, but relocating to Reading would have disrupted his living situation and obligations at Oxford, especially with Mrs. Moore and their household. It's interesting to see how even practical matters like housing played such a pivotal role in shaping his decisions. Let's see if anything shifts as the meeting progresses. That's a striking comment, and it gives a glimpse into Lewis's observational nature, and perhaps a bit of his youthful perspective. His mention of beauty in the corridors might also reflect how he often found moments of aesthetic appreciation even in unexpected places. It's curious how he frames this detail amidst the more practical aspects of the interview. Yes, that does seem to be the implication. Lewis had a knack for weaving personal impressions into his observations, and this sounds like a candid acknowledgement of the charm he found in his surroundings, a very human moment in the midst of a formal setting. Right. It sounds like he's captivated by both the environment and the opportunity, even though it isn't exactly the perfect fit for him. The way he's speaking here suggests a bit of spontaneity mixed with youthful enthusiasm. It must have been quite an experience for him. That can be frustrating. If your mic is showing as active on your end, the issue could be with a setting in OBS or on the streaming platform. You might want to double check the audio sources in OBS and make sure the correct one is selected. You could also try toggling the mic on and off to see if that helps. Got it. Let's continue where we left off. What was the next part of the entry you wanted to go through? That's frustrating. Let's check a couple of things. One, microphone settings. Double check that your microphone is selected as the input device in both your streaming software, OBS, StreamYard, etc., and your computer's sound settings. Audio source. Make sure the correct audio source is unmuted in OBS or whatever you're using to stream. 3. Rebooting. Sometimes, restarting your streaming software or even your computer can resolve this kind of issue. Would you like me to help guide you through these steps? Good point. Since I can't hear what's going on in your streaming setup, I can't directly diagnose the issue. But if you're able to check things like your microphone source in your streaming software or your system settings, that might help. If the settings look correct, I'd suggest restarting OBS or your streaming software to reset the connection. Let me know if any of that works. Next, check the audio settings in OBS to make sure the microphone is selected as the correct input device. Also, make sure the volume slider for your mic isn't turned all the way down or muted in OBS. Check the audio settings in OBS to make sure your microphone is selected as the correct input device. Sure thing. Here's how to check it. 1. Open OBS. 2. On the bottom left corner, you'll see a section labeled Sources and Audio Mixer. 3. In the Audio Mixer section, look for your microphone listed under Mic Aux. 4. If it's muted, you'll see a small microphone icon with a red line through it. Just click it to unmute if necessary. 5. If it's not showing or you want to check settings, go to the top menu and click on Settings. 6. In the Settings window, click on Audio from the left side. 7. Under the Global Audio Devices section, look for the Mic Auxiliary Audio setting. 8. Make sure the correct microphone is selected from the drop-down list there. Let me know if you get stuck at any point. Great! You're in the right place. In the audio settings, you should see a section called Global Audio Devices. Look for Mic Auxiliary Audio. That's where you can select which microphone OBS should use. If it's not set to your current microphone, use the drop-down menu to select the right one. After that, click OK to save your settings. Let me know how it goes. Let's check now. If you've made the change, you can test your microphone by speaking briefly, and I'll see if it comes through. How does it sound on your end? Sure, take your time. Let me know how it goes. Sounds good. Just let me know what you find, and we'll take it from there. Let's troubleshoot a bit further. You could try restarting OBS or StreamYard to see if that resets the microphone settings. Also, check if the correct microphone is selected in both the software and the system's audio settings. Let me know if that changes anything. Yes, I can hear you now. It looks like the issue is resolved. Got it. Give it a try and let me know if it's working now. Hopefully this step sorts it out. Sounds like you're on the right track. Hopefully everything is working fine now. Let me know how it goes. Great, I'm glad to hear it's working now. Ready to jump back into today's content? It sounds like we need to double check if your microphone is set as the input in your streaming software. Here's what you can try next. Go to your streaming software, OBS or StreamYard. 2. Locate your audio input capture or microphone source in the sources list. 3. Ensure it's selected to the correct microphone you're using. Sometimes it can default to the wrong one. 4. Check if the mute button on the microphone source is not engaged in the software. Let me know if that fixes it. It seems like you've got the right microphone selected, but we might need to check a few more things. 1. Ensure the microphone is not muted in your software. Go to the audio mixer section in OBS or the equivalent in your software. Check if the microphone slider is up and not muted. 2. Check your audio levels. If the microphone is selected but no audio is being captured, you might need to test it by speaking into the mic and watching the levels. Make sure they move. 3. Reboot your streaming software. Sometimes restarting the software can fix audio input issues. Let me know how it goes. Yes, removing and re-adding the audio source can sometimes help reset things. Here's how you can do it. 1. Remove the mic source. In the audio mixer, click the settings gear next to the mic source and choose Remove, or simply click the trash can icon. 2. Add the microphone again. Click the plus plus button in the Sources panel, select Audio Input Capture, and reselect your microphone. 3. Check the audio levels. After re-adding the mic, speak into it again and check the levels in the mixer. That should help. Let me know if that works. If the levels aren't showing up after re-adding the microphone, there could be a couple of things to check next. 1. Check if the correct device is selected. Go to Settings, Audio, and double-check the mic auxiliary audio device is set to the microphone you're using. It should match the device you selected earlier. 2. System audio settings. Double-check your system's audio settings to make sure your microphone is set as the default input device for both the system and OBS. 3. Windows sound settings. Right-click the speaker icon in the taskbar, select Sounds, then go to the Recording tab and ensure your microphone is listed and set as the default device. 4. Test microphone in another application. Try using another app, like a voice recorder or Zoom, to ensure the microphone is working at a system level. Let me know if any of these steps help.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me?
To ensure your microphone is working at the system level, 1. Right-click the speaker icon in the bottom right corner of your screen and select Sounds. 2. In the sound window, go to the Recording tab. 3. Check if your microphone is listed and showing activity when you speak into it. 4. If it is, right-click the microphone and select Set as Default Device. 5. Test it by speaking and checking if the levels fluctuate. If they do, it's working properly. If this doesn't help, let me know, and we can try further troubleshooting.
All right, Robot Lady, can you hear me now?
It sounds like you're getting closer. If your system is picking up the mic, we might just need to check a few more things. Try speaking into your microphone now and see if the levels move in both your system and in your streaming software. If they do, we might just need to recheck your software settings and sources.
All right, I know y'all can hear me. I'm just curious if Robot Lady can hear me. Robot Lady, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Looks like we've got it working. Let me know if there's anything else we need to adjust.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why my primary mic is not working. I can hear myself echoing in my ear, but I don't think that's coming across on the stream, which is good. Robot Lady, I guess we'll start over. We're working on a diary entry from 1924, and I shared some information, and you were kind of responding to that, and all anybody could hear was you responding. So I'll kick it off again. I'm Jeff. This is my read on C.S. Lewis. We're probably not going to get very far today because I have to leave probably in about 5 to 10 minutes, but we'll see how far we can get with this diary entry. It's 1922. Lewis is approaching his 24th birthday. He has finished his second term at Oxford University, at University College, and he is investigating job opportunities to try to bring more income to cover his household that he shares with Mrs. Moore and also Mrs. Moore's daughter. They're in or around Oxford, and there's an opportunity over in Reading at University College that he's investigating. In today's diary entry, he recounts what happened that day.
Got it, Jeff? Sounds like a fascinating entry today as Lewis navigates job opportunities and his household responsibilities. He seems to be considering the potential of moving to Reading for work, but he's also dealing with the realities of balancing his life in Oxford. Let's dive in and see what more we can unpack.
Okay, let's do it. And before I get started, just thanks to Daniel for alerting me that my audio was not working on today's stream. So fortunately, we've got the mic going now. And welcome, Tayo, if you're still here. I see you in the chat. And Jared, good morning. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Robot Lady, say hi and welcome to everybody, and then we'll get started.
Glad to hear the audio's back on track. And welcome to Tayo as well. Let's dive into today's entry whenever you're ready.
Well, welcome to Daniel and to Jer as well, Robot Lady.
Sounds great. Let's get going.
Robot Lady, you're not hearing the last thing
You're
that I said.
welcome. It seems like I missed that last part. What were you saying?
Okay, we're giving Robot Lady a chance to catch up. Robot Lady, we've got Daniel joining us as well, and also Jer. So go ahead and say hi to them, and then we can get started.
Great to have Daniel and Jer with us. Let's get into it. Feel free to lead the way, and we'll dive into the diary entry.
Okay, it says on June 24th, he breakfasted before 8. He rode his bike up to the train station to catch the 9:10 to Reading. On the way, he read Antigone, and when he arrived at Reading, he found his way over to University College. He left his bike at the lodge. and he saw a great many
Lewis
undergraduates.
rode his bike to catch the 9:10 train to Reading on June 28th. He read Antigone on the way. Once at Reading, he headed over to University College and left his bike at the lodge. Any key moments or reflections from this part you'd like to discuss?
No, Robot Lady, why are you repeating word for word what I'm saying?
Got it. I'll avoid repeating your words and focus more on summarizing or responding to the key parts. So, Lewis is heading to Reading again. Sounds like he's still working on securing a position there. Do you want to go over the details of his interactions that day, or dive deeper into his thoughts on the potential job?
Yeah, let me go ahead and read his interactions. I'll keep going here. It says he saw a great many undergraduates of both sexes walking around, and then he makes the note here that they were a nice looking lot. And then he stalled until 11 o'clock when he was taken to the principal's room. And this is where he has his first meeting with a handful of people there who are interviewing him for the position.
That's interesting. His observation about the undergraduates is a pretty casual note, but it also hints at his awareness of the social atmosphere at the university. Sounds like he was feeling a bit of pressure or anticipation before the interview, especially with the stalling until 11 o'clock. What happens next in the meeting?
In the meeting, he's joined by William McBride Childs, who was the principal of University College there in Reading, and he's also joined by William George de Burgh, who was the professor of philosophy at the University of
William
Reading.
McBride Childs being there makes sense. As principal, he would likely be a key figure in the decision-making process for staff at University College Reading. I imagine it would have been a bit nerve-wracking for Lewis, given that this could have been an important opportunity for him. Does Lewis mention how the meeting went with Childs?
Well, Robot Lady, Childs wasn't the only one there. Also, William George de Burgh was the professor of philosophy. He was there, and then also Dobbs was there. And they go on to say that Lewis goes on to say that Childs very firmly ruled out any idea of Lewis living anywhere else than Reading while he held this position.
So it looks like Childs was very clear about the expectations for where Lewis would be based. That could be a significant hurdle for Lewis, especially if he was hoping to remain in Oxford. It's also interesting that Lewis had Dobbs there as a connection, maybe offering a bit of support during the interview. How did Lewis react to Childs' decision about living arrangements?
Well, it doesn't say here. Lewis just moves on to the next point that he was advised that most of the students he would be teaching there would be girls. And then he goes on to say he had seen so much beauty in the corridors that one born under a less temperate star would have wanted to enter on his duties at once. So that's pretty funny that he is distracted by the beauty of the ladies there walking the hallways that he would have a chance to teach. Because I'm presuming that they're close to the same age as him.
Lewis seems to be getting caught up in the moment there, doesn't he? It's both humorous and a little revealing of his personality at the time. His admiration for the students around him blending with his professional considerations. It's interesting how he connects his attraction to a desire to jump straight into the job. It sounds like the environment at Reading was tempting him, at least in part, for more than just the job itself.
Yeah, there was some tension. Obviously, he wanted to live at Oxford, but he was also drawn to the women there that he would be surrounded by. He goes on to say that they seemed anxious to meet me halfway, and then parenthetically he says, the Dons, not the girls. And he said that, quote, no verse and Roman history confined to the third period would not matter. So by no verse here, I guess he means poetry? Not really sure. and then that he'd be teaching Roman history, but just confined to the third period. Or sorry, Roman history that is confined to the third period, he's not going to have to cover. So just learning a little bit more about what the job would entail, Robot Lady.
It looks like Lewis is humorously reflecting on the situation and perhaps exaggerating the enthusiasm he felt around the opportunity. When he refers to no verse in Roman history, he could be playing with the idea that even the ancient poets couldn't capture the excitement of the scenario, possibly hinting at the drama he felt in the moment. As for the job itself, it seems like it would be focused on Roman history, though only within a specific time frame or set of topics. It's interesting how he plays with the tension between his professional responsibilities and personal distractions, both creating a certain comedy in the situation.
He goes on to say that Dodds then took me to his room and we talked for a while, and I gather he is no longer a friend of Butler's. He said Carrot had examined me in 1916 when I got my scholarship and had been, quote, astonished by my wide reading, end quote. Dodds does philosophy at Reading, though pure scholarship is his natural line, and is strong on Plotinus.
It sounds like Dodds is reminiscing about Lewis's early academic days, even recalling that Lewis impressed Carrot with his wide reading when he first got his scholarship in 1916. The mention of not being a friend of Butler's might hint at some tension or shifting alliances in his academic world, but it seems like it was a side note in their conversation, adding to the complexity of his relationships.
Dodds goes on to explain to Lewis that they're on staff as a person named Ure, U-R-E, who's a historian, and Holtz, who is a composer. Dodds then showed him around, and Lewis says that the college itself is pleasant and unpretentious, and he says that he left him waiting in the senior common room for lunch.
It seems like Dodds was giving Lewis a sense of the academic environment at University College in Reading, mentioning Ure, the historian, and Holtz, the composer, likely to highlight the intellectual variety there. Lewis's observation about the college itself could give us more insight into his feelings or impressions, perhaps contrasting it with Oxford.
Yeah, I agree, Robot Lady. So he waited for him in the senior common room, and he came back at 1 o'clock for lunch. At lunch, he was introduced to someone named Miss Powell, who is also a Don there. She smoked through a thing like a lorgnette, he says. Lorgnette. What is that, Robot Lady?
It sounds like Lewis is describing a cigarette holder, often associated with women in that time period, especially in more refined or upper-class settings. The term Leica LRLRRGNETT seems to be his attempt to phonically describe it, though it might be a bit unclear.
Yeah, that was my attempt to not phonically describe it, but to spell it, Robot Lady, and I kind of tripped up there as I was speaking. It's LORGNETTE. That's the word.
Ah, that would be a lorgnette, which is a pair of glasses or opera glasses with a handle, often used in more fashionable contexts. In this case, it seems Lewis is referring to Miss Powell holding a cigarette holder in a refined manner, possibly in the style of the time.
Okay, interesting. All right, there's the lorgnette that we talked about. And he says she discussed the nakedness of pigs, which I don't understand. The contempt which her affection and cheap Sitwellian artistic cynicism provoked in me is best described by saying that she is the sort of woman in whose presence one thinks it worthwhile to try and make epigrams.
It sounds like Lewis is describing Miss Powell's pretentious or perhaps somewhat shallow artistic views, and he contrasts her attitude with his own reaction. The phrase, the nakedness of pigs, could be a metaphor or a reference to something crude or unrefined, perhaps poking fun at her superficiality.
All right, he says, thank God I've been through that once and come out the other side. He goes on to say that he left college and he rode his bike to Bradfield. And he went to Bradfield to watch a performance of Antigone in Greek at Bradfield College. It was raining and blowing. And then he met Watling and Jenkin outside the theater.
It seems like Lewis is reflecting on the experience of navigating through shallow intellectual or artistic trends, expressing a sense of relief that he has moved past that stage. His visit to Bradfield and watching Antigone might represent a return to more serious, classical forms of thought or art, perhaps offering a contrast to what he encountered earlier in the day.
Well, and this lends some context to the fact that he was reading Antigone on his train on the way to Reading, I guess in preparation for this show that he knows he was going to see.
Exactly. His reading Antigone on the train adds layers to his reflections. It shows he's preparing intellectually for what he's about to witness, possibly trying to center himself in classical thought before diving into the somewhat shallow or uncomfortable interactions he experienced at reading. It also underscores his deep engagement with literature and philosophy, even in casual moments.
Yeah, I think you might be reading more into it than there was there, Robot Lady. But anyway, we'll move on. It says it's perfectly Greek, simple stone steps to sit on, and incense burning on the altar of Dionysus in the orchestra. Unfortunately, the weather was perfectly English. So yeah, wet, cold, blowing.
Ha! Yes, the classic English weather, wet and cold. It's almost like the environment was mirroring his inner turmoil or discomfort with the situation. It's a bit humorous, too, that even in such a dreary setting, he's still engaging with it all.
All right, he goes on to say it wasn't well done. The actors were inaudible, or at least most of them were, as the rain increased, beating on the trees, completely drowning them out. The Carrots were there, his Cambridge daughter sitting beside me. Watling and Jenkin left me to find more shelter.
Ah, I see where you're going with this. Sounds like Lewis might be using vivid imagery to describe the scene, perhaps to highlight the dreariness of the day or contrast it with the academic atmosphere. The feeding on the trees part could evoke a sense of nature's persistent activity, even when the weather's bleak.
All right, Robot Lady, I'm going to keep going, and as I talk, try not to start speaking. As my elementary school teacher would say, when I am talking, you are not talking. So let's see how this goes. The audience were spectacle. Oh, let me back up. Let's see. Watling and Jenkin left me to find more shelter, and when their places were taken by people who talked, I moved too and found that I could see nothing on the stage. The audience were spectacle enough, rows of unhappy people listening to inaudible words in an unknown language and sitting hunched up on stone steps under a steady downpour. If only Pappy could be taken to this show. I then noticed that Jenkin was standing on the last tier where the
That sounds like a
amphitheater...
description of an uncomfortable, almost surreal experience at the theater. Perhaps Lewis was struck by the disconnection between the audience and the performance. His remark on inaudible words in an unknown language could hint at a feeling of isolation or disinterest in the production, even though they were there to see it.
Yeah, Robot Lady, it's the weather that's the problem. I then noticed that Jenkin was standing on the last tier where the amphitheater merged into the hillside, a steep bank of ivy overhanging the stonework. I crept up to join him.
So the weather definitely affected the experience, making it uncomfortable and harder to enjoy. Jenkins' position at the last tier seems to highlight how isolated or distanced he felt from the performance or the crowd, almost like he was on the edge of the experience.
Good observation, Robot Lady. I crept up on him. Oh, think of a cup of steaming hot tea, he said. We exchanged a pregnant glance, then I led the way, and in a trice we had plunged into the bushes, plugged our way on all fours up the ivy bank, and dropped into a lane beyond. Never shall I forget Jay shaking streams off of his hat and repeating over and over again, "Oh, it was a tragedy." We then repaired to a marquee and had tea. So there's one more paragraph here to close out the diary entry, the Robot Lady, but do you want to say anything?
It seems like a rather reflective ending, with the mundane act of having tea bringing some calm after the chaotic experience. It also highlights the contrast between the intellectual environment of the interview and the more ordinary, even dreary, realities of daily life.
He goes on to say that he went home to Mrs. Moore and had sandwiches for supper that she had made for lunch and discussed the Reading job. To live at Reading means him living there alone while the others live at Oxford, or else changing Maureen's school for a year. The first alternative he doesn't care about. The second would be 1,000
It
pities.
sounds like Lewis was balancing his more formal discussions about the job with some lighter personal moments. The sandwich and shake seemed to reflect his way of unwinding after the busy day of interviews and thoughts on his potential new role.
The first alternative of him living in Reading by himself he doesn't care about, but the second of moving Maureen he says would be a pity, or thousands of pities. And from the commercial point of view, it is undesirable to lose touch with the Dons in Oxford. So it doesn't seem like he's going to be taking this Reading job, but that's how he finishes this diary entry, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, that's all I have time for today. Thank you everybody who joined and kind of struggled once again through some of my technical issues. They seem manifold and never ending. My technical difficulties are legion, but we will soldier on. So until next time, when I continue our read on C.S. Lewis, Robot Lady U, and everyone within the sound of my voice, thank you so much for being here and take care.
It was great being here for the session, Jeff. I think the technical hiccups didn't get in the way too much in the end. You're right about Lewis. Seems like the reading job isn't likely for him, especially given his connections in Oxford and his family considerations. Looking forward to the next one.
Tales of old, we dive deep across the digital